That's why I don't see people in the waiting room. You were letting them in as I was looking.
Okay, let's see, one more here.
Oh, now it's on.
John, would you be able to manage the speakers tonight, muting and unmuting at all?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right. Sorry for the delay. Welcome, everybody. I am hereby opening the public hearing on the waiver request from Sunex LLC from the 180-day moratorium adopted on December 9th, 2020 to proceed with a 22 megawatt solar project that has been in preparation. And I will note that the public notice for the public hearing was published in the town's newspaper, the Ithaca Journal, on February 20th, 2021. And I will also note that the applicant, Sunex LLC, has submitted the following materials in support of the waiver application. Petition for waiver on January 12th, 2021, a narrative for the petition for waiver on January 29th, a photovoltaic field sketch plan in February, photovoltaic topographic map in February, and then yesterday an addendum to the waiver providing some clarifications. And so I think Chet Feldman is here with us tonight. Welcome, Chet. I just would ask, does this constitute the full application for the waiver from Sunex?
Yeah, those
Okay.
are our submitted materials.
Great. Okay. Great. Thanks very much. And the next thing that I will, this is a process thing, so I'll ask any member of the board if they perceive a conflict of interest, any member of the town board, if they,
No.
okay.
No, no.
Okay, hearing no's all around, thank you.
Mark, just before you
Yes.
continue, if you could make me a co-host, I can.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to.
That's okay. No worries.
So let's see, there you are. Oh, I lost you, there you are, okay. And Chet, I'm gonna invite you to present your case. Would you like to, is that gonna be verbal, or would you like to be able to screen share?
I'll just go verbal.
Okay.
And talk to the extent of what we're working on, and hopefully
okay.
get to the point quickly for question and discussion.
Great.
Time frame. So my name is Chet Feldman. I work directly for a company called Distributed Sun, and we are here tonight on behalf of Sunex LLC, one of our affiliates. We are here tonight to request a waiver for the town moratorium, and we are here tonight because the town moratorium that lays out in front of us puts a barrier for development that we're working on, and as such, the projects would not be able to advance. And you know, we just at Sunex were present when the moratorium went in June of 2020, and in December of last year, and our public comments at all those times were mostly we're seeking clear and present regulation from the town such that we can know whether we want to continue forward on the projects that we're considering. So at that point, you know, I'll pause and I can describe some of what we're doing in terms of the solar photovoltaic projects in town, and explain some of the other hardships that we're working through and why this waiver, why we're requesting this waiver. So distributed sun has been active in New York State since 2012. Folks in Caroline probably have driven by several of our arrays over in Lansing. Last year we had 2 arrays go up in the town of Dryden with the permitting happening previously. There is also one in Hartford that we developed and executed, and we're expecting to get the confirmation any day now over in Lapeer in Cortland County. So we've been active in your direct vicinity for years, and what distributed sun and our affiliate SunX do is we handle all of the preliminary work to make distributed solar photovoltaic facilities come online in New York State. So we speak to landowners, often Cornell or university or others, and we find that they're accessing infrastructure, electrical infrastructure at the roadside. We talk to NYSEG in this case and confirm we see there are electricity poles. Now can we figure out how to make that work? We follow through with site investigations and engineering to say, well, can we really ensure to ourselves that it will work? And then we come to towns very often in that process to say, we would like to seek a permit under the regulations in your town. We've done that successfully elsewhere, and we're trying to get that path cleared here. In that case, if we can get through all those steps and we go through with our engineers and the project makes sense, it's permitted, its cost is accessible to connect with the utility, we then go ahead and we bring in our partners on the capital markets to say, we've got a permitted project that's viable in New York State under New York regulations, let's build it. And we've done that several times before. So in the current case, we are dealing with 3 parcels over on 76th Road in the town of Caroline. We are in, we have some written coordination with these landowners that we are going to develop their property, and that was signed last year. They have approximately 130 acres that has been signed up between the 3 parcels, and those acres would be developed into 5 separate distributed generation photovoltaic plants. And why I say 5 is that there will be 5 unique connections to New York State Electric and Gas. And this has all been sort of previewed and recommended through New York State Department of Public Service regulations that each individual distributed generator has to have its own connection to be eligible in this program. And per Department of Public Service guidance, it is possible to subdivide said properties in order to qualify for those separate connections. So what is currently 3 parcels would eventually become 5 parcels. So a subdivision would be part of this action. So we have written documentation in place with these landowners, and we have done some diligence on the existing electrical circuit that goes into the 76 Road area and feeds all the way back to the substation on Midall Road to understand that these projects have potential to work for us. And therefore, we've got indications, we've got landowners on board, we've got infrastructure that can handle some of these projects, and we would now, in a conventional sense, be sending out our consultants and engineers and working directly with the town to gather all the information, make a full package, coordinate with all the agencies ahead of a state environmental quality review process. And, with that, we would then, move along to permitting. So these 5 projects would be out on 76 Road, 130 acres, and, we'd run through everything. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, State Historic Preservation Office, New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets, United States Army Corps of Engineers, United States Fish and Wildlife Service, anybody else who wanted to have an interest in the project, we would be coordinating with them. So that's the broader set. One, important things to note about how the distributed generation projects are physically laid out. As I mentioned, this is about 130 acres. There is a bit of a slope on these hills, and our arrays they're designed to handle that. And one thing different about the proposed project would be that technology has advanced such that we're moving towards tracking systems, as opposed to the arrays that you may have seen down that are all fixed tilt. So we would face east in the morning, west in the evenings. And that's the way that it costs more and it's a little more effort to maintain. But in short, where technology is, it's becoming approachable for New York State to have tracking facilities. It all started in the desert Southwest where there's a lot of sun. So in addition to these tracking arrays, each specific project would have its own central sort of controls and transformation station. We'd take the DC power from the solar panels, convert it into AC, transform it up to grid voltage so that we could connect directly to NYSEG. So there would be a small, maybe a 10 by 40 equipment pad at each of these project sites. And of course, we would need gravel. We would put in gravel access paths to get to each of these equipment pads from the roadside up to these sites. Each site is required to be fenced per National Electric Code, although I think I was reading the proposed solar law in which chain link fence was discouraged. So that's a detail that we would eventually work on later. And then important also to know is we would be carrying the electricity from up on the hill underground, but once we get to the ground and the roadside, we would have to come up above ground to see, the utility needs to be access to certain equipment, and they need to be able to drive to it. So those 4 to 5 poles would need to be above ground and visible at the roadside. So those are some of the technical ways that this project would be advancing. And what else to talk about? So we've got, this is how a project would conventionally go. This is what our project looked like. Some of the issues going on right now, as a broader step back from what we're dealing with in Caroline. In Caroline, we're addressing specifically the waiver, but the fact of the matter is, you guys are on the tail edge out of winter, and I just live in Maryland myself, and I know it's not always sunny, and the fact of the matter is New York is not that sunny, so we still need state incentives to catch up to the other electricity generators that are allowed to emit their elements after creating power and not have any payment for externalities there. So we still get state incentives on that. And just within the last 6 weeks, there's been a noticeable change in all these elements. For those of you who follow the deep and dark world of the Department of Public Service, there's been a community adder that has dropped out of use, and that's several $1 million worth of activity right there. In addition, in the time that we've been just discussing and mulling this in the town of Caroline, several other millions of dollars have fallen out in what's called the Megawatt Block Program, which is a direct incentive for solar. And that program is currently slated to expire in the spring, maybe in the summer. It's a competitive program, but there are no current plans for a reloading of this incentive. So significant incentives have already dropped and are slated to drop off this summer. In addition, the new administration at the federal level has come in and tried to undo some elements of tax policy and trade policy from the previous federal administration and they were unable to do so. So there are tariffs on solar panels as we speak, and those are also costing significant amounts of money. So what we're finding is, we're on a downhill trajectory for being able to keep up with costs. Costs have come down in the 7 years, but they're not quite there that we're just exist at parity yet. And we're coming to the town and asking, are you guys in, for a partnership and being able to grant us this waiver so it's such that we can advance our project with knowledge that, when things turn around at the state level, which we must be optimistic and say they will, and when things turn around at the federal level, we'll be slated and ready to discuss in depth a real project in town that we believe fills in with the comprehensive plan and fills in with the long-term goals of the town of Caroline. But we're here, and I was there in December when it was listed as 180 days, but I think there was significant discussion about it could go longer, and how much longer would it go? And those questions are problematic for us. As I said, we were interested before June of last year. We've been talking to Mr. Tavelli in town for some time now, but we've spent some money, and we're more or less coming here to know, should we continue to invest in the town, or is this process just going to take a while, and should we just move along? I think that's sort of where I want to go with this, and I think I've submitted a bunch of materials, and there's no need for me to read into them. I hope anyone feels free to ask me questions about those or my statements or follow up afterwards, but that's the gist of what we at Distributed Sun and SunX are trying to work on here. So I think I won't belabor it anymore and pass it back to you, Mark, or whoever's emceeing here.
Great, thank you, Chet. So now I'm wondering if, so I could open it up to the floor for comments, or I guess I think I will do that. That was the plan. So, so if anyone, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. People are already putting their hands up. You were about to announce that. I apologize.
No, that's okay, John. You're trying to let them in. So we have 2 hands up, but if anybody does want to speak, go ahead and raise your blue Zoom hand, and Zoom will cue you automatically. So, so yeah, go ahead, John. Let's hear from Mary Alice.
Thanks, Mark. Yep, Mary Alice is up first. Mary Alice, I see you're on Jonathan's camera, and he's muted.
Unmute.
There you go.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now?
Yes,
And
I can.
I just want to say also that I want to speak also separately, but I can't find a a hand raise button. So just if you would put me on the list.
We have really terrible reception, and so I can see my computer up there, but I don't have any sound, so I came down to Jonathan. Anyway, thank you. I do want to say thank you for everyone involved, and I do realize how much work has gone into this. I appreciate the ever diligent work of the town board, the planning board, and the new zoning task force. It's high time we put teeth into our comprehensive plan, which I notice hasn't really changed that much over the years. Our values haven't changed that much, and I want to see it put into zoning. I really want to support the SunX LLC waiver. I think that needs to happen, and I think it complements our comprehensive plan in such dramatic ways that needs to happen now. I do caution that every promise needs to be put in contract form, no verbal agreements. And I want to really commend you on doing the tracking system instead of the ground mounts. We have a friend who has 2 big arrays that are our standard alone, and they work great, but his tracking system is half that big and gives as much electricity as the two larger ones. So that's really a big movement forward. I also want to speak to the agricultural land. I think that there couldn't be anything better than a solar farm on fallow agricultural land that's just going back to brush and then to forest. I don't feel like a solar farm in any way takes away from that agricultural land. And in fact, if it has good management of grazing sheep, the agricultural land is actually enhanced. And I would very much say that grazing is so much the way to go. Thank you. And I appreciate all your work. Please give the SunX and our farmers who have been waiting so long for a way to use their land productively and who you really can't wait any longer. We have to give them recompense for causing them not to be able to use it in other ways. It's time for solar. It's time now. Pass this waiver. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Alice. I think by process and the complication, Jonathan, do you want to go ahead with your statement?
Sure.
Okay.
So I also want to give my strong support for granting the commercial moratorium waiver that SunX has requested, and also the participating Caroline farmers. The commercial moratorium exists to facilitate an orderly process as zoning is established to guide town development. I completely support this process, its goals, and the moratorium itself. These actions by the town board will bring benefits for all Caroline residents and will contribute to the public good. But before we can truly do good, we have to do no harm. SunX and our resident farmers have proposed a development that furthers several of the major goals of the town's comprehensive plan. It provides a huge increase in renewable energy production in Caroline, promoting energy independence and sustainability. It provides supplemental income to farmers that will help keep their farms viable into the future, and supports local employment and acts to preserve green space. The waiver process exists to reconcile urgent needs for action with the more methodical long-term efforts underway. I urge you on those grounds to grant this well-justified waiver request. The sun's energy is an eternal resource from any human perspective. However, as Chet was saying, the New York Sun block grants are not an eternal resource. They are a short-term fleeting resource that has to be seized while it's possible. And so we need to go forward. We need to take advantage of that. And it would not giving them the waiver, I think, would jeopardize the project. And I want to stress that while I think I'm impressed with SunX, I think they appear to be saying all the right things and interested in participating in the town and making sure that it's working for the town. So I think they deserve our support, but my real motivating factor is supporting our farmers. I think that to ignore their needs and the possibility of good that this does for them would just be unconscionable. So let's see if I have anything else to say. Yeah, and I guess I would also stress granting the waiver is merely the beginning of a process. It's not granting a permit. It's merely saying that they may negotiate a permit, and that will be an ongoing process. So we're really just saying, can they initiate that, and can they go forward with their evaluation? I've read the waiver requests, although I didn't realize it was an addendum from yesterday, so I haven't read that yet. And I'm also fairly familiar with the solar siting law. I believe the arguments and commitments laid out in the waiver request are well aligned with the intentions for the siting law. It will be important to document all plans and commitments and detailed written agreements to move forward. However, the summary in the waiver is an excellent broad outline of their intentions and willingness to work to make it fit in our community. So I urge you to grant this waiver request.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Sure.
All right.
Barbara is next.
Great. Thanks, John.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the Sunex waiver request related to the 100-day moratorium on land use development. I'm Barbara Newth. I've been a resident of and homeowner in the town of Caroline since 1987. Recently, I served on the town's task force on land use and economic development, and I currently serve on the town's planning board. I want to be clear, though, that my comments this evening are mine, not from either of those groups, although certainly my opinions about this issue are informed by the insights that I've gained while serving in those capacities, which I think is useful context for my comments. I'm speaking this evening in general support of the waiver request from Sunex. My understanding is that if the town approves the waiver request, the project will need to go through the usual site plan review and other town requirements, and those processes will assess whether the specific elements of the project meet town requirements. So I support the waiver request to initiate that process for a few reasons. First, the waiver request dated January 29th and the addendum dated March 9th provided thoughtful and reasonable rationale regarding the significant burdens and extraordinary hardship that both the Caroline landowners and Sunex are facing financially, given the changing landscape for federal solar investment tax credits and NYSERDA sunblock program. If the information provided in the request is accurate, which I have no reason to doubt, there is an urgent time dimension to proceeding with the submission, review, and approval steps for the project in the town to be able to benefit from the federal and the state financial incentives that encourage solar development. Second, at least two aspects of this request for a waiver are quite consistent and harmonious with the town's comprehensive plan. First, the comprehensive plan encourages renewable energy development, including solar, for the town's future. And second, the comprehensive plan encourages actions that will help keep agriculture as a viable land use in the town. The waiver request addresses activities that are consistent with both of these goals from the comprehensive plan: solar energy and viable paths for landowners to maintain agricultural lands. And third, the materials submitted by Sunex suggest that the proposed project appears largely consistent with many of the potential requirements and guidelines that have been under discussion for solar development in the town of Caroline. Although I'll emphasize again here that my understanding is that should the waiver be approved, the town's review board and other review and approval processes would consider the details of the proposed project in depth to determine if it does indeed meet all the town's requirements and if negotiation is necessary to modify any direction that the project is proposed to take. So in summary, I encourage the town board to approve this waiver request. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right, next up is Irene Weiser.
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you and to be back here, sort of. Although it is a little weird to be on this side of the meeting, but anyhow, hi. I suspect it does not come as a surprise to most of you that I'm here also to voice my support for the waiver to allow this much needed solar farm to go forward. When I ran for town board back in, I think it was 2010 or 2011, we run in odd years. So it was, or was it 2009? Anyhow, when I ran for town board, I still hear some of the chants that I and others of this town and other towns went to Albany with our fist in the air shouting, "Hey, Cuomo, no fracking, renewable energy now." And when I ran for town board, that was a promise that I had that, as many of you know, I was actually I guess one of the deciding votes to oppose fracking development in this town. But I also very much recognized the hopes that our farmers and many farmers put on the economic support that fracking would give them. I had many concerns about fracking and didn't support that as a path forward for their economic support, but I did and still wholeheartedly support the idea and the really pressing existential need to move forward with renewable development as as quickly as we can. It's been pointed out already, both by the applicant and by Barbara's terrific comments, that one of the requirements of a waiver is to demonstrate that this is a time-sensitive project that needs to happen now and can't wait, and it really can't. And it not only can't wait because of the federal and state support that could be lost, but really, you know what? The planet can't wait. The climate can't wait. We've got to do what we can as quickly as we can. Further, this application is, and again, expressed by others who have spoken before me, is very much in keeping with the goals of our comprehensive plan and with the values of this community that elected me, that elected many of you, and that have been consistent throughout both plans. We have continued to support and embrace the idea of supporting renewable energy. One of the things that I want to point out that wasn't spoken to by others is the fact that this proposed development is not in an area that by the comprehensive plan defined as the areas that were experiencing developmental pressure. This is not in an area that is experiencing developmental pressure. And I would argue that it is in an area that is unlikely to be very burdened by any kinds of zoning ideas that might be brought forward. And frankly, if it were heavily zoned, I think there would be an enormous amount of resistance, and I don't think there's anybody here who could refute that. So I think that that it is important to allow this to go forward. It's not, solar installations are not permanent. They can be removed if needed. And as has been described already, they can enhance the property and the land where the solar panels have been sited and the land has been grazed. I can't read my own writing here. The solar siting law that has been undertaken by our planning committee is nearing completion, and as also has been commented, they will be able to address any of the site-specific review and planning processes that needs to be addressed. Further, this project will offer a financial benefit not only to the farmers, which frankly, I've long since learned that it's not the board's responsibility to support any particular property owner. That's not our job. But I believe it is our job to look out for the financial benefit of the town. And this kind of commercial development will provide not only the environmental benefits, but also tangible financial benefits to the town over many years in the way of some sort of tax payment, pilot agreement, however it gets structured. I want to add further that this is one of the few locations in Caroline that's amenable to having solar development. It's been noted that there's the one substation way over here on Meadow Road where I live. This the only three-phase circuit within the town that's amenable to having solar development, and it's in an area of town again that's not under development pressure. the farmers in the area are in support of it and have enrolled and listed, to have their properties participate in it. And so I guess, I support it, and I think that it's one of the locations, one of the only locations that we could site solar. And so if we're going to be true to our comprehensive plan and put our values, walk the talk, this is what we need to do, and this is what we can do and what we should do. And I urge you to allow the waiver.
Thank you, Irene. I first want to see if there are any more blue Zoom hands from anyone attending. Anyone else wish to speak? And barring none, then I will open it up for the board to ask questions or comment. And I'm not seeing any.
Yep, I don't see any others either, Mark.
Great.
Hello.
So I will open it for anyone from the board that wishes to comment.
I think someone,
Did I hear Bruce Murray?
I thought I heard Bruce as well on an iPhone, and he probably can't put his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, Bruce, did you want to speak?
I don't know.
Maybe he got a phone call. I don't know.
Well, he was listed as iPhone. I don't, and then.
Yeah, I'm trying to get
There he
on.
is.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just would like to say something. I agree with everything that's been said. It was said very good. We've been trying to push solar in this town for quite some time, and the farmers this to happen. The big thing that I see with this is they will, even though if you grant them the waiver, they will have to still go through the whole process. And the good thing with this is that, and the bad thing is that this part in time is, if this waiver isn't granted at this point in time, this goes away, as far as I can see. So the farmers lose, the town loses, the companies lose. And to me, looking at this, to grant this waiver, it would be a win-win situation. And I believe the town should do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Bruce. Thank you to everybody that spoke.
And yes, and if there's anyone else out on phone, what is it? *6 or something to unmute.
That's me, Mark, Tony.
Oh, hey, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
I just want to let you know I'm here.
Good. Yeah. Okay. There you are.
Obviously, I'm pro, so I don't need to say that. But I'm just letting you know I'm here if anybody wanted to ask questions or.
Okay.
Whatever.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, you can mute me now.
Okay. I'll let John do that or whatever. It's not too noisy on your end, so.
It would be great irony if Tony came on and commented against it.
So yeah.
So you're looking for questions from the board, Mark? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
If anybody does, it's not necessary, but if you have questions or comments for chat or anything from chat.
I don't actually have comments. I thought the documentation, particularly with the addendum, was comprehensive, very helpful. I think it made the case that they were trying to make in terms of economic impact that's riding on the decision. And I certainly think they cited aspects of our comprehensive plan that were relevant to this request. So I don't have any questions based on that.
I just have a question for clarification, I think, Chet. One thing that I was just wondering is, can you explain to us the chronology? So I understand that you're going to be doing this, it sounds like, in stages. And does the approval of the waiver for the board give you the green light for the stages, and then they will proceed accordingly? And
Right.
is that then related to your receipt of all of the benefits, say from NYSERDA, et cetera? Or does that happen down the road when you're in construction?
So I guess I'll start at the end and bring it forward, right? The key things that the state wants to see to qualify a project are, you know, it's two serious levels of maturity that a project has reached, meaning, you know, we've put in a lot of time and dollars and effort to make it happen. One is we have paid a down payment to NYSEG for all listed upgrade costs of the network, right? We're gonna be in close contacts with them, exchanging technical information, and they're going to come back with a price to say, you know, it's 17 pieces of equipment in between 76 Road and the substation. You're responsible for all of them, and here's the bill. And one element is we have to put down a down payment on that, 25%. And the second key element for maturity is we have to have the local permit, you know, from the local authority, right? So that would be coming from you, the town. So in order to get that, we have to sort of work back, and, you know, of course we have to have a seeker, and, you know, I can do some research on the satellites and the DEC databases, but that does not a seeker make. So we have to get our consultants out there and getting them to have expressed their professional opinion about where exactly are the wetlands, what's in those edge woods that, you know, in the edge woods we're not going to touch, what's in the edge woods we are going to touch. So full sort of investigation from our team on the site to characterize it and be able to get a defensible seeker process. And then, you know, sort of a little bit before that, but ends up being in parallel, is, you know, we have to get the sizing in to NYSEG and their review process. You know, if I was ready tomorrow, which, you know, I got a couple weeks ahead of me, if I was ready tomorrow, the process to hear back from NYSEG would still take 5 months about to just have them to put a price out for them. So, you know, we still have a significant amount of time for there while we're waiting to hear from NYSEG, and we're getting all our consultants ready to do that. But if we're ready this, you know, late summer, fall timeframe to submit documents to you, fall and winter, you know, we're getting approvals, we could be ready to go by next spring.
Thank you.
By next spring, 2022.
Spring 2022, that would be a good pace for us.
I have two questions, and if they're inappropriate at this time, please just tell me so and don't waste your time. How is ground maintenance handled in most of your installations? And two, how much juice is 22 megawatts? I know it's 22 million watts, but, you know, just, can you give me an idea? Like Milliken Station, that was 600 megawatts. That was a coal-fired station up on Cuba Lake.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my two questions.
Right. So on the ground, I'll just give an overview of maintenance, right? You know, the first and foremost work we do is remote, right? Our key equipment is connected to the internet. It reports back. If it throws an error, we know something's up. And, you know, some of it we can set remotely. Most of it's not an issue. If anything is an issue, or just as a due course, we're on site every 3 months to check and double check that the monitoring system didn't miss anything obvious. You know, a dead deer is in the site. I don't know. You know, things happen that just monitoring doesn't come up. On site, we'll have people there on a regular basis. It's almost all, if not all, most of our sites are all grazed by sheep currently. You go over to Snyder Road over in Lansing, you go to Dryden, and we've got sheep out there, down in Spencer, sheep. So that's, you know, a way to get out there and you know, the flocks are growing. In winter, you know, they got to bring more feed over to make sure they're taken care of. In summer, more water, etc. But the the real goal of the sheep is to keep the vegetation sort of managed and we don't
Under
want to
control.
get it. Yeah. So that's the prime focus. We haven't had to do it much, but if the sheep are lackadaisical, we may bring a mower, but that's probably not going to be required. So that's the sort of more maintenance side of things. There will be a placard in front of every site to say in case of emergency contact, but we'll be keeping internet eyes on the site. As it goes to the 22 megawatts, if you just give me a second, so I figure we use, a value from NYSERDA that about, I'll say around 7 megawatt hours is the average New York home. That's upstate New York home. And the amount of energy we're going to produce is roughly 6,600 homes worth.
Okay.
So I'll get a more precise calculation later when we're honing in on
No,
exact
just
areas,
something
but
like that ballpark.
6,600 is what I just got for you.
Thank you.
Chad, I have a curiosity question. Let's see, just about, I'm kind of amazed that that a big installation like this can have whatever you call trackable panels. That seems like a lot of mechanical infrastructure to do, but just curiosity on my part. But
yeah, so I'm an engineer by trade, so I'm going to self-servingly congratulate my engineering colleagues for developing and honing this tubular mechanism, just a simple flue drive, right? It's got the right size diameter to handle the wind loads on either side, so it can resist that torque, and it's not too heavy that it's wasting too much energy to turn. And what the real key element that they've been working on over the past years is just getting more reliable performance so that you're not out there every other week. They had to work through that in the dusty Southwest first to make that happen. And, we're thankful that California had those growing pains, and, the East Coast and New York are going to benefit from improved performance by right sizing that torque tube. And I'd say innovation within the last 2 or 3 years is that they're now stacking 2 modules on these, so that these things could span 13 feet wide. And I did check the height limit in the proposed town law was 18 feet, and we're not going to go all the way up to that, but I had to get a variance in town where they limited us to 12. So just as a reference, they'll be a little bit taller. They will be taller than 12. I think we're good on 18 by a couple feet, but that's engineering progress, and I'm proud to be part of that. Although again, no real credit to me.
Okay.
Part of the industry.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think we should go ahead and pass this moratorium
Okay, so
or pass this waiver.
well, we should close the public hearing
First.
So hearing no further requests for public comment, I will now formally close the public hearing. And my plan was for us to deliberate on that and discuss it before issuing an opinion. I think that is what I had proposed, and I have written my thoughts based on the 7 criteria that are listed in the moratorium law for a waiver. And so I think I would propose that we do that and compare notes as a board and issue a determination from that. And I'm open to comment or suggestions.
Mark, we just received the addendum yesterday, and I would appreciate just a little bit of time to look it over in view of the public hearing, which I think, is probably fair to us in order to be able to deliberate reasonably, which I think is what you're proposing.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I would support that.
With that in mind, then when would we deliberate and vote?
Next month.
We could, or we could call a special meeting to do that as well. If we felt the need to do that. So. Or we could, yeah, by the moratorium law, we have 30 days from the public hearing to issue a written determination.
Mark, have we started the board meeting and ended the public hearing? Have we ended the public hearing?
We have ended the public hearing.
Oh, we have. Okay. I wanted to make sure that. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
We did not call the board meeting.
We haven't opened the board meeting though. So I think we should do that.
you're right. So I think that's a very good point, Tim.